Merry Christmas!
Welcome back, creeps and creatures. This is episode 12 of Way Too Spooky. I'm Connor. I'm here with my co-host Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you doing, Connor?
Doing great. This is a very special podcast because we have none other than the self-proclaimed bad boy of comedy, Mr. Brent Terhune. Is that what you told me to say, right?
I'm the bad boy of comedy. I'm the three years running rookie of the year.
Yeah. So Brent, not just being a stand-up comedian, he runs a very funny, I want to say funny, it's a very cool horror podcast called They're Coming to Get You. So we share a similar love of all things horror. So
we have another podcast too, right?
I have a bunch of podcasts, but yeah, the other one that I do for just that's me is called the Field Trip. It's topic based, so we've done stuff like parody religions.
Yeah.
Do you guys know there's a Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster?
I have heard of that. Yeah.
Ramen. So it's stuff like that. I've done Halloween Gone Wrong. I've done a history of Halloween.
Yeah.
Coming out soon will be Christmas Gone Wrong. It's all different topics per episode. So if you don't like one, you can go to the next one.
Cool.
Yeah. So unfortunately for Brent, he's here on the East Coast telling jokes with me this weekend, but I guarantee you we can give him so much more.
That's the spookiest
from this
thing
podcast.
I've heard today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I would normally want to drag any guest to come here to do it, but you do love horror, and we're excited to hear your input on today's movie, which is the 1984 classic Spielberg, by the way, which I was surprised about. Gremlins.
Yes,
So.
but before we get into Gremlins, I think I want to just learn a little bit more about you, Brent. Like what you, because my understanding is that you love Halloween, but why Halloween? Where did it all begin? Because I'm being a big Halloween buff. I like to hear it from somebody else's perspective. Why Michael Myers? Why Halloween?
Probably just it was one of those that scared me young. And sometimes you can go either one way or the other. So you get scared by something when you're young, and then you tend to avoid it at all costs, or you gravitate towards it. So one of my earliest horror experiences was watching Scream, which has a lot to do with Halloween, with Billy Loomis and all that stuff. But that was kind of my first memory of watching horror. But then more so, it was Con and I, you and I were talking about just seeing it on AMC. Yeah. So forever, they show the movies, but sometimes they don't show them in order. So forever, I just always thought that Laurie Strode was Michael's sister, but then that's not the case in at least the first one.
Right.
And but just I have a Michael Myers dream about once a month where for some reason he's chasing me. Why would I gravitate towards that? Why would I fill my house?
Is the John Carpenter score playing while he's chasing you?
I don't think so. And from what I remember, but there was one funny. Like my dreams are usually never funny, but one time he was chasing me, and then for some reason Alex Trebek was in the dream, and this sounds like a joke, like somebody made it up, but it's not. But Alex Trebek looked at me and he goes, "You're in jeopardy." And
that's
my
pretty funny.
And the dream where it was like this shouldn't be funny. Why is the dream funny? But,
right.
Yeah, and Alex Trebek can't say that because he's dead, right?
Yeah, but he was.
Yeah.
This was when he was alive.
Even then, it was still your dream. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So, Michael Myers is probably still alive himself.
He doesn't die. You can't kill the boogeyman.
No, he makes too much money to be dead.
I share a similar story as that my brother. He recorded on VHS Halloween 2.
Yeah.
And it was like shitty quality, and I think it was TV version. And I just remember watching it in the beginning of the morning with my twin brother before school and thinking, "Oh, I can handle this. This isn't scary at all." And it was the scene when she's going down the elevator and crawling through that top window and he's about to get her.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this isn't that scary. And when night came, I was deathly afraid of it. I was hooked. And so I wanted to know more. Yeah. I remember I didn't even watch Halloween 3 until more recently in my life, just because it's like, oh, Michael Myers is in that. I don't want to hear about it. And I'm glad that I waited because it was for me it was a pleasant surprise. But and then I just expanded from there. Oh, you got to watch this. You got to watch that.
There's always a foot in the door, and I think it was the Halloween franchise that probably got most people into it. Just because, like you said, it's like the Goodfellas. Whenever it's on TV, you're just watching it.
Yeah.
And then you see all this other stuff on AMC. You got to give AMC Fear Fest a lot of credit. For those years of getting people into it. But the movie today, like, there is a certain nostalgia with Gremlins. I would say.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of like to me, I know there's Gremlins 1 and 2, but it was kind of a standalone. Everybody remembers it. Yeah, everybody remembers the bad Gremlins. But do you guys remember where you were when you first watched this movie?
I saw this late in life. I have no nostalgia for this movie.
Yeah.
I would agree with that too, but please continue. I'm sorry. I just
It was, my wife she's a big horror fan, and she's exposed me to so many movies that, like, Trick or Treat, or I've seen the Chucky series before we were together, but that's her favorite, and Gremlins was one. And that's one of those where you tell somebody that you haven't seen Gremlins, and they give you you haven't seen what,
right.
But it must have been in the past 10 years seeing Gremlins, so I have no nostalgia for it, but I still it's a good movie, and it's one of those where it's a good introductory to horror movie if you're talking about kids.
Yeah.
You can show kids the movie, and same with, Poltergeist is probably a little scarier, but that's also produced by Spielberg and also a PG movie,
Yeah, actually, I read about this movie last night after watching it again, and I heard that they came out with the PG-13 rating because of this movie.
Really?
Because it
had some violent parts.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because it was people felt that it wasn't PG, but it wasn't quite R. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit too extreme for kids to watch. And I watched it with my son, and I haven't watched this movie in a while. I grew up watching the second one, which is I think a lot more kid friendly.
Right.
It's more satire. This one is actually a lot more violent than I remember.
I mean, he used it could qualify as a Christmas movie too.
Yeah,
absolutely it does. Yeah.
But I remember I was a little surprised again because it's been years since I watched this movie, where he took when the Gremlins turned, they took the I guess the lights for the Christmas tree and just strangling the mom.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is. I just remember them smoking cigarettes and boozing and being bad, but I was like, yeah, they were pretty.
Well, that's what I had in my
too.
mind.
Yeah.
I remembered Halloween, Gremlins 2, and I was like, oh, these people don't die in this movie; they just knock them out. In this movie, he's killing people. They're killing people, and so I'm having to tell my 6-year-old son, "Are they dead?" I was like, no, they're just sleeping. They just knocked them out. Meanwhile, they threw that woman out the.
Yeah,
that was the best kill, by the way. The stairwell.
So there was actual kills.
They kill people in this.
I never saw a kill to the completion. I thought they just got really hurt or something.
I think it's one of those where it's implied,
Right.
And it's that lady, the old it's very parallel to the lady from Wizard of Oz, the witch.
Yeah.
She's got the dog and she's riding the bike and it's like that. When I watched that this week, I was like, oh, she's not clearly, but you can compare her to the old lady from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny watching it because I rewatched it 2 nights ago, and all I'm thinking about, this dad is so irresponsible. Like this, he just goes into Chinatown. He goes, I need to get my son something. Meanwhile, you're thinking it's a kid, but it's his teenage son.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to get him a really nice gift. And he just gets this creature that he knows nothing about, brings it back to the house, and then he just goes on a sales trip during Christmas and leaves it with his family. Yeah, see you later.
Yeah. His kid who already has a pet, by the way.
Randall Peltzer. That's his name, the dad. Yeah. So he's got some really, beyond just being irresponsible, he's got some of the world's, I don't know if it's best or worst, from my perspective, inventions that he comes up with.
He basically had a switchblade knife, but it was just a huge brick. I was like, it's already been made.
Swiss Army knife for the bathroom.
For traveling in the bathroom, yeah. Mm-hmm. Which one do you think, of all the inventions that he had in the movie, which one would you like to have in your house, or would you buy from this guy?
I like his invention where he just leaves his family and just leaves them with these creatures, and then I'll be back. And then you realize how much stuff, because yet everything was a payphone, like how much disaster could happen between now without a cell phone.
Yeah, dude.
Text.
Yeah,
like that is a risk that you could run. It used to be normal to not speak to your family until nighttime.
Oh yeah,
when you check in somewhere.
I think that's what
made
too
much communication now.
70s and 80s horror, or even 90s, like what it is. It's nowhere what it is now because there's too many connections, right?
Yeah, we're too.
I'm in trouble. I'll just call somebody. Sometimes you just can't call people, and that's what I liked about this. It kind of still has that whole 80s vibe because obviously it's an 80s movie, but
even Home Alone, that movie is done in 20 minutes if he's like. Oh, let me call my mom real quick.
Yeah.
That's the one where he sets up those booby traps around the house, right?
Yeah, it's a
'Cause there's
Saw
two-
movie.
That's what it was. There's two mean guys kept trying to. I know. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rewatching it, I just love the dad rolls into Chinatown. Got to get a gift. Comes home, gives it, and I think everybody like fell in love with Gizmo itself.
Yeah.
Gizmo was the original. And they're all gizmos, right?
Mogwais.
So
Yeah.
they progressively get worse, is what I talk about it. So every time you put water on an off breed, they just get worse and worse. That's what it is. Because after Gizmo had the first time he accidentally got water on it, like they were okay, but the one kind of bit. And am I tracking this correctly? The more and more they multiply, the worse they become.
A copy of a copy.
I
Copy
think,
of a copy. That's what it is.
but then I'm wondering, how do you make more gizmos that aren't evil? Do you mate two mogwai? And where do you get another mogwai?
I think it's like, what is it? What's the not nature versus nurture, but like it all comes down to like the parenting. Maybe he was just trained very well.
Well, the
Maybe he
Japanese
wasn't.
man or the Chinese man who owned them said he comes with great responsibility, and we come to find out Mogwai was stolen.
Yeah.
Like that little kid definitely stole it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, you should have let him know that, like, putting water on it, that's a bad thing. But I don't know. It kind of reminded me of something like, I don't know, you don't have any kids yet, but
No.
imagine not knowing you're not supposed to give something water, or it could be worse. Apparently, you're not supposed to give like infants water as well.
Yeah.
Like nobody
Or
told me
honey.
that,
Or
and I
honey.
remember somebody says you don't give like a newborn water. You're not supposed to. I'm like, how much trial and error was there with babies in the beginning
lot.
when people
Yeah.
started having babies?
I didn't know you're not supposed to. You can't give them a bottle of water, like a baby
No,
bottle full of
apparently
water?
not.
And honey either. They can't
But-
like process
Okay.
honey.
Yeah, when I found out, I'm like, yeah. So basically, babies are just like little gizmos or mogwas. How do you pronounce it?
Mogwai, yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, yeah, they're very delicate. You can't put water on it, so you never give them a bath. But even that one little drop of water produced like 5, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't feed them after midnight, which to me, I always wonder like, all right, well, what if there's like
Time zones.
time zones and like what 12 till what time? Like 3 o'clock in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
What's
And one
the-
of them did yank the cord on the clock.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
they were teaming up. They were the evil ones, but
And then no exposure to bright light either. Those are the
That'll
three
kill.
rules, and they don't really make any sense. But you have to buy into those rules for the movie to make sense, you know?
What also doesn't make sense to me is why is Corey Feldman in this movie? Because
Oh, yeah.
you don't see him beyond when he first
That
meets
may be
him.
in one of his first movies. He was pretty young in this.
He was.
Yeah, it was probably his breakthrough.
I guess it's because I know Corey Feldman from all these like later roles. I'm like,
Right.
man, you should have put more emphasis on Corey Feldman. He was like the kid friend. I thought, I don't know, you'd at least see him like one more time. You don't see him at all. At least I don't remember. So
You know what I liked about it? And I don't know where this movie was supposed to take place. I assume it's the Midwest. Is that what it was?
I don't. They
Midwest
this-
Christmas time. It
Kentucky,
always
I
seems to be
think.
every movie. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I guess that's just Americana or
I
something.
got to cater to the most of the country, you know?
Yeah, the breadbasket of America. But I like the attic. They had the same thing in Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really cool attic with like they turned into like a bedroom for the kid.
Well, you know, this movie was written by Chris Columbus, who was also the director of Home Alone 1 and 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's all within the same universe.
now it makes sense.
Yeah.
He's very pro cool attic, right? That makes total sense.
And Home Alone 3, it features an attic as well.
That's right.
So, but it really does. So,
Was Macaulay Culkin in that?
He was not, no.
no, and I don't even think Christopher Columbus even wrote that one.
No.
So I think that was
They were dumb.
I'm
yeah.
assuming there's somebody who had a drug use problem. Is that what you're referring to?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I was like, you're quick. You know, you got some quick ones.
I try.
Yeah.
But so the movie does star Zach Galligan, which I don't really know. I only know him. He's the
He's
main.
a huge fan of Zach Galifianakis.
You love
Can't
Zach
get
Galligan.
enough of Zach Galligan. I love all his movies. Gremlins,
Gremlins.
the other ones.
Yeah, those other ones are pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. So
Phoebe
just don't.
Cates or Phoebe Katz or whatever. She's married to Kevin Kline. He's like 15 years
He's a
old.
very underrated actor, Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to do a Kevin Kline episode.
Yeah, there's definitely like a hardcore Kevin Kline following out there.
I wish Kevin Kline was in more horror movies. Don't you?
I'm having trouble thinking of any of his movies.
He's in Wild Wild West.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Kevin,
not Will Smith.
the other one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that was an HBO staple. I've seen that movie way more times than anybody should see it.
I saw that movie a lot. I like the guy who had like the
legs.
robotic legs.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be, I guess, be the Southern General or something like that. Yeah.
Gizmo he's the voice of Gizmo, which I don't even know why you need to have like a famous actor or actress at all.
Oh, his voice.
Is Howie Mandel. from Bobby Meets World.
Are you being serious?
I'm dead
Yeah,
serious.
that is true. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I looked it up too.
yeah.
Why? So does he get royalties every time this movie's played?
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know if it's even played every Christmas. I doubt it. But
And then the main bad Gremlin is played by Frank
Welker.
Yeah.
It
And
was-
here's a fun fact I found out about Frank Welker. You might know this. Might know where I'm going with this, but did you know that he is the third highest grossing actor of all time?
Frank Welker.
Frank Welker.
That makes sense. I mean, he has been Fred from Scooby-Doo for over 50 years.
Yep.
He's been Scooby-Doo for like 20 years.
Yeah.
He was one of the Transformers, which
was.
that's not my series, but then he was Slimer. There's a lot of voices.
Slimer? I didn't know
think
that.
he's Slimer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
His movies that his voice is in,
right.
$17.4 billion.
What?
Yeah. He's
Yeah, how
not the
much of that
highest.
does he get?
He's not the third highest grossing
I'm
actor.
telling you, the best gig in the world is just to do a voice of like a couple famous characters.
oh, dude, yeah. Because you can do voices forever. As long as it's like comedy, you can kind of do comedy forever as long as mentally you're there,
And I was reading, even though they already had such a huge catalog of movies and shows, but like Tom Hanks just for doing Toy Story, I think that alone was like he's grossed over $1 billion, or $100 million for him.
Oh, I'm sure he
for
has.
him. And then like Tim Allen didn't get nearly as much apparently, but
Yeah,
still,
so
his
there's a
voice
different
is
list,
more
like-
recognizable with Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
Like it's not the highest grossing starring actor or actress. He's just the highest grossing actor. Third highest grossing actor. So there's like a different list from what I found.
Yeah.
But $17.4 billion.
Yeah, and like your brother's a big Gremlins fan.
Huge
Yeah.
Gremlins fan.
But I
yeah.
think Gizmo is still probably, if you look at all the toys being sold, and it basically was the Furby of its time.
Yeah, he
If
was.
you think about it, I think that's probably one of the more popular.
Well, he's
little
cute. He's
figurines ever
there's
sold.
something.
He's big eyes.
Yeah,
He's got like
Furry.
bat ears.
I want
He's
a
the original
mogwai.
Wuhan bat.
Yeah.
That's what he was. You know what
For the amount of merch that has been made for Gremlins, which has only been 1 and 2, is so off the charts. How much merch they've made off these 2 movies.
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, it's wild. And yeah, Brad always talked about he wanted a mogwai. Like, Brad, they don't exist, but he still wanted a mogwai. So he's got the Christmas sweater, I think, for
Yeah.
the Gremlins and all. But it's a good movie. I enjoy it. And
And Gremlins 2 was really the one got really freaky looking, right? It was like a big spider type.
yeah, he drinks like the spider potion.
Oh god, that's gross.
That was a weird
That's where
movie.
it gets weird.
but-
Yeah, I have to revisit that one.
Yeah.
So it's weird it did so well that you would have felt they would have had a third or at least a remake of it. By this
Well, the
point.
second one was just a box office bomb.
Was
So,
it?
Yeah. This one, this movie was made for $11 million.
Right.
It made like close to $215 million.
Well, that's a good point because I rewatched it, and you ever put your head? Maybe I put my head down for 5-10 minutes, not realizing it, but then like the Chinese guy came back, found them, took them, and then he walked off into like the Christmas Eve night,
yeah, right.
and the movie ended. I'm like, there's still destruction. Like they didn't. These things are still running wild, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were destroying the whole town. And
I think they were killed. Most of them were in that bar or whatever. But then that would have been the sequel could have been one got loose and now he's gonna reproduce or whatever. You know.
right.
You think that snow would make them reproduce, right? I guess
Wet, yeah.
it's wet, right?
Again, the rules. It can't be too cold water or whatever. You know.
Right.
It has to come from a little beaker, and you drop it right
Yeah.
on their back like that.
How do you guys feel about it being in a winter setting? I love a movie or any art that's kind of snow based.
I do. I love it because one of my favorite horror movies is The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
I love just the dead of winter because it's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and that's to me is a little more supernatural.
Yeah.
I think summer's more for like the campy killer thrasher.
Mhm.
Like I kind of like winter for that. In fact, I probably watched more supernatural weird movies during the dead of winter
Yeah.
than I have like when you get summer you watch like certain categories and stuff like that. But
Jaws. We were talking about that before.
yeah, like to
Turn
me,
the
I'll
mics
watch
on,
that
you
in
know?
4th of July, but I'll never watch it in like October. I just haven't. I'm not
Yeah.
anti-watching it then. I'm just not in the beach
Yeah,
mood.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that it's in the winter too. To piggyback off your point,
Yeah,
is
there's some good Christmas.
I like that
horror
there's
movies.
chaos amongst the silence of snow.
Mhm.
You know, it's everyone should be sleeping, waiting for Santa Claus to show up, and these things are just wreaking havoc, killing people, destroying a town that's about to crumble upon itself, anyways, because it seems like the economy there is just in the shitter. Everyone owes the bank. Mm-hmm. Everyone owes the bank something. Everyone's behind on their payments. It seems like everyone's struggling, and they just throw gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, you mentioned the Wizard of Oz. That lady in the beginning giving him shit at the bank, and she goes, "I'll get your little dog." I'm like, she sounded like the
the Wicked Witch.
Mrs. Deagle. Mrs. Deagle, I think her name was.
And she's also very, what's the guy, Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, where he kind of owns everything in that town, too.
Which, let's be honest, if he offed himself, that town was way cooler.
Oh, yeah.
There was gambling, there was booze. It was a lot of fun. So, I mean, that's the town that everybody really wanted to live in. So.
Yeah, let's go throw dice in the alley.
Yeah.
This movie, actually, I read, too, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the Gremlins themselves because they're considered culturally insensitive.
Then or now?
Well, then and up until now.
Yeah, all it takes is one person to write like one thing on the internet, and that's not the voice for everybody.
Yeah,
but for what reason? Because I watched it, but I wasn't watching it for that.
So they felt as though that was anti-African American. So that the Gremlins themselves were portrayed as sorry for all this noise. Don't know what's going on with that. But they were portrayed as almost like as African Americans, as being the way they dress, they listen to the music they're listening to, the way they're drinking in the bar and destroying things. As people took that as such.
Booze and bars, but...
And then I read this is all just on the Wikipedia page alone.
Yeah, anybody can add to the Wikipedia page too.
It seems like it's got a source. It's not something someone just adding, but the science teacher, he's the first person to die, and he himself is a black man, and so they said, of course, that's what they're doing. They seem as though it's very culturally insensitive that way. And then the other piece of it all through the Wikipedia page was that the original owner, the Chinese man, they said he was keeping everything nice and keeping him in a cage, keeping him safe, and then the white man basically gets him out. It was
I guess you could read into anything, but
I didn't take that one.
No, because most people don't. But I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is funny. There's going to be something spreading that's bad, and of course it comes from downtown Chinatown Market, and these things have little bat ears. Yeah. I was kind of looking at them like this is like the original Wuhan bat.
I didn't even think of that.
So I was like, of course it's coming from there, and they warned you.
And they'd have a mandate that says don't feed them after midnight, and then somebody'd be like, oh yeah, well I'll feed them after midnight. I'll show you. Well, you mentioned Santa Claus. Can we talk about the monologue or whatever with the girlfriend where she reveals that this is like such a weird part of the movie where it's so heavy in the middle of the Gremlins tearing up stuff, and she's like, and we couldn't find my father, and it turns out he was dressed as Santa Claus, dead in the chimney.
Yeah. I was watching that with my son. I forgot about that scene.
Yeah.
And all I hear is my wife, who's washing her hands at the sink in the kitchen. Oh, real nice, Chris. I'm like, oh, I am so sorry. I didn't realize. And of course, I think it was over my son's head, which was good. And then my 4-year-old had no idea what was going on. So he just was obsessed with Gizmo, which is, I think,
everybody loves Gizmo.
How can you hate Gizmo? He's cool. He's chill.
Yeah, and he stays true. So just because he replicated more, it doesn't he doesn't become bad. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's what they do in both movies. It's beat down on Gizmo the entire movie. Until the last 10% of the movie.
Yeah, everybody's supposed to feel about poor Gizmo. He's the root of all this problem. You know what I mean?
If we just put him down.
Yeah, there won't be an issue.
Take him to the vet.
Yeah, where did they come? Where do they come from? Is what I want to know.
From Chinatown. In fact, if you go to the Chinatown here in Philadelphia, there's plenty of mogwai. How do you pronounce it? Mogwai?
Mogwai. Well, my wife watched it with me, and I was like, nobody's amazed that there's a new animal that they just go like, oh, we got this thing, and then he doesn't. The Corey Feldman comes over and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I got this thing on the bed. But nobody seems to be amazed that it's a thing that nobody's ever seen before.
That's it. Corey Feldman goes back to putting his little glasses on.
He's like, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. This is after. I think this is after it replicated.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like you just watched an animal reproduce itself.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
It kind of talks. Yeah. It watches TV. And then nobody cares.
That's how you're going to react?
Jeez, at least in E.T., people were rightfully so amazed by this thing. This thing is basically just another little alien that nobody gave a shit about. And I was thinking about, I'm like, I guess the shock value was a lot worse in 1984.
I guess, but yeah, I was very taken aback
Do you know why,
by that.
You know why Corey Feldman didn't care that much? 1984. I mean, you're in the thick of it. Probably Halloween 3 or 4. So they're on to that right now. They're all they care about is Michael Myers. They don't care about this. Do you understand where I'm going with this, Chris?
I have no idea where you're going.
Whatever.
With this.
Anyway, like you were saying about Michael Myers. No.
Yeah, about and then Corey Feldman was in Friday 4, but I think he's a little bit younger. Kind of has a starring role in that one as well.
Shaves his head. I thought he was going to turn into.
Are any of these characters in Gremlins too? The same, besides Gizmo, of course.
The Billy and Kate, who's I guess is that her name, Kate? His girlfriend.
The girlfriend, yeah.
The girlfriend. She's in that. I don't remember if the dad's. I think the Chinese guy is in it, but he dies in the very beginning, if I recall.
Oh, okay, gotcha. They killed
and that's
him
how
off.
Gizmo gets out. He
was only in. You know, he's very simple needs. They're like mushrooms, dark, no bright light, no water. It's like what did Mark Wahlberg say in The Departed? You treat him like shit, let him die, or something about mushrooms. And this thing clearly you want to love so much, and you hear its voice, but it really doesn't need much. You can just let it be.
Just talks like this.
Yeah, like, can you let me out? Like, hey, listen, if I heard that thing saying "let me out," I'd feel terrible.
Let me out. Well, it's like how long would you keep a baby around if it wasn't cute? They're designed to be cute. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
Are you gonna tell me you've never seen an ugly baby?
Oh yeah, I have.
There's ugly babies.
I saw a picture of you kids earlier. I'm just joking. You son of a no. It's like
this is over. You need to go, sir.
This interview's over. It's one of those where it's something I saw earlier this year, last year. Joe Dante, the director, I think said that they ripped off Gizmo to make Baby Yoda, but they're very similar. I think they're. Yeah. You can separate.
There's definitely a copyright somewhere behind the design of Yoda or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like Fanatic. They had to change a couple things on the Philadelphia Fanatic.
Yeah.
I'm sure George Lucas and like Steven Spielberg were like, yeah, go ahead. Just take what you need.
Yeah.
Well, to go back.
And Furby too as well. They're all kind of little fur cute things.
Yeah, Furbies, I guess, had a little beak. That's what made him different than a Gizmo. But to your point, we were talking about ugly babies. I actually told you to text me when you get here because I didn't want you ringing the doorbell because you're going to wake up this ugly-ass kid upstairs.
He's getting his beauty rest and he legit needs it.
Yeah. He opens the door and I just run away like it's the Munsters.
I'm just kidding, Maria, in case you're listening to this.
Don't say that to my wife. Say it to my kid.
He looks like a little Gizmo. That's what he looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. What if he came down and was just Gizmo?
I'd keep him.
You throw water at him. Get the fuck back upstairs.
Do we have origins for Gizmo? How are we going to
So I
speculate?
don't think there's any origins. I don't think we should speculate because there's a show coming out in 2023 that's going to tell you the origins.
Okay.
But
I think it's like 1920s, like China. So it's from China.
There's definitely a spinoff where there's like an orgy where they all multiply.
You'd think that they would all. Well, in the second one, there's the girl gremlin who like.
I always forget about that.
She wants to like get married to that like this.
I really got to revisit number
director.
Because there's so much.
And at the end, he does like this weird thing. Like she's going up to have like I think she's gonna like blow him, and it just zooms in on his face, and he's like, he can't believe it, and then all of a sudden he's like. He's like,
I can't believe that was a bomb.
Yeah,
I bet it probably did a lot better in the long run as far as people going back to watch it.
I'd totally watch it. Hulk Hogan's in it. There's a scene where Hulk Hogan's
brother.
Yeah, I gotta revisit this movie.
Yeah, it's an odd movie. It's just a strange movie. But I don't know. I liked it.
Are we at a rating system yet?
We're not. We can talk about it.
No,
Just get
I don't know
a little
if
bit.
you were trying to get there, but we'll get to our point. We have a patent pending rating system that we're
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, I was telling you yesterday. It was one of those movies, like, I usually have a lot to say about a movie. To me, it was just chaos. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't really wrapped up. And I was like, it was very entertaining because I don't think there was a movie like it at its time. I love the chaos. There was one other thing I did pick up on. He was like that World War II veteran. And the movie closes with him saying this. He said it before he got in his truck. And he says it at the very end. Always make sure you check your appliances. Things, whatever you get them from, because they're hiding in there. So he was saying like the enemy would hide these things in everything.
Oh, he's the neighbor. I always forget his name.
I don't know if there was a message in that about kind of like don't buy foreign shit. Maybe.
Well,
You know what
but
I
he
mean?
mentions that.
The neighbor would say
There's
the
chips in
goddamn
there. They're
foreign
listening
cars.
to you.
Yeah.
But like I'm thinking, you got to check. There's a mogwai in there. There's something in there that's going to tear up your neighborhood, or it's going to rip apart your family, or some bullshit. Maybe there was a little something, but of course it came from like a WW2 vet who was at battle. He goes, "You always checking. I'm telling you, they're going to be there."
Yeah.
So
Well,
maybe that was like a little innuendo too.
Well, I'm sure
I don't
the viewers back then in the '80s probably were more in agreement with what his point of view was.
I also
than
don't think people were really.
Russia.
I also don't think people were really deep dive into the movies like that back then. I just think it was just
You couldn't
there
rewind.
was no
it. You had to
time to like digest so much stuff or go on the internet and look at stuff. You just saw a movie for entertainment,
Oh yeah.
and that was it. You weren't necessarily looking for a message.
Well,
or
I
figure
have
out what
a
they're trying to
feeling that
say.
people were watching this thinking, God, I wish there was like a podcast I could listen to. Back in the '80s, that would just break this down for us.
And then somebody else would be like, I don't know what a podcast is, but that's a great idea.
That's how it started. So.
It would be a good tactic of war to drop. You get a little mogwai, you fit him in a parachute, and you drop him over wherever you're fighting with.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna get it. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's gonna get wet, and then tear up that neighborhood.
Yeah, of course. That thing would multiply. You just literally just drop it right into a river,
Oh yeah.
and then just they keep
That'd be a
popping
great.
up.
What do you think the U.S. military would ever adopt the mogwai method of dropping a gizmo on a state?
It's
and
not
like-
a bad idea. And I think they have to flesh it out as to what it is. Like, what if? I guess so. If you get wet, no. If you eat after midnight, you turn into a gremlin, right?
Right.
So what if a gremlin eats after midnight? What happens to that? Does that evolve further?
No, they just get high blood pressure and they gain weight. That's
Like
what happens,
us.
like everybody else.
They do little noir scenes in the bar.
they
That's I think my favorite scene is
just have more
chaos in the
fun.
bar.
They just have more fun.
They're forcing her to stay in
they're
there.
like playing like I don't know, gambling, smoking cigarettes.
I like the one that flashes her.
Yeah, it's like,
drinking
if they
booze.
just stayed in the bar, they would have been fine. It would have
Yeah.
been a problem.
Yeah.
But then like tearing the cars apart and
Well,
strangling
that's the other
ladies.
thing too is if they're not supposed to have water, isn't it alcohol? Primarily water.
But it dehydrates you.
I guess so.
That's always been something that fascinated me because there's way more water in beer than there is like alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, aren't I still getting a lot more water than I normally would?
I don't
There's a
know.
few loopholes in the movie. There's a few things you have to just turn a blind eye to in this movie. That's one of them.
I mean, of course there's alcohol in here, but I don't know. I just felt like I was getting enough water.
But yeah, we can jump into our rating system with this movie. So we have a 4-point rating system. I don't know if you want to jump into it.
Yeah, we still have a team of lawyers that are fighting because there's a lot of people who are trying to rip off this rating scale.
Okay.
But it's ours.
Hopefully nobody else that has a horror podcast adopts it for his.
I hate to see that happen.
So the name of our podcast, of course, is called Way Too Spooky, which it's rare that a score, somebody can rate that in a movie. This movie, it's all relevant. Maybe the movie at one time is so great for you when you're a kid, and you may just give it a way too spooky for now, even if it doesn't do it. So there's no justification to why you choose it. But the lowest of the low is a spookless.
Okay.
That means it was a complete dud. That means there wasn't even one element of something that was interesting, or maybe there was one scary moment, or there's just nothing. It was
Did
just
nothing
shit.
for you.
Did nothing for you. And then there was spooky.
No. He doesn't even know our scale.
It's not too. It's not too.
A lot of
spooky.
stress.
I'm testing him.
Not too spooky.
It's not too spooky, which means okay. It still sucked, but there was one okay moment, or maybe at a time years ago you could see why other people could have thought it was good. And then it's spooky.
You got it. You're on there.
Which
on the right track.
I think most movies kind of just fall into that because it's rare, even if you love the horror movie, that it really hits that upper echelon.
For everybody.
For everybody. Yeah. So, and then there's Way Too Spooky. So,
That's the cream of the crop.
this movie was more fun to me. I can see why I don't even want to say it's a cult classic. It's very well known. But it's popular. It wasn't scary. There was a couple little violent moments that I felt were funny. I thought the movie was good. I'd go between. I would love to give a half a score, but I would say not too spooky.
Not too spooky. Brent,
Yeah.
what would you call it?
Spooky.
Yeah.
This, and it's again, it's like, it's horror, but it's not. Like would you guys say the Munsters TV show is horror?
Technically, given its time.
Yeah.
And they are monsters, but it was more to be fun.
It's the spooky theme.
Because it's got those tropes, you know?
Yeah.
But this is, like I said at the beginning, this is good for an entry level.
Yeah.
Or you could put it on and the whole family can enjoy it. So I would say this is spooky.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's spooky enough where I don't think it's... when I first read the box office and it made like $215 million, I was like, really? I was like, I like this movie, but I don't think it's worth. It would make that much money. But then I had to think about it and then saying it's not just catering to the horror fan. It's catering to the families, and that the kids were. My son was upset when Gizmo was throwing down the laundry chute. He's going, "Oh no, what happened to Gizmo?"
Yeah.
I was like, calm down.
I liked when he was on a little tricycle or whatever.
So what's gonna happen?
A Barbie car.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen?
It was like the original Toy Story.
But to that point is it opened it up. I think it's, I totally think it's a spooky movie. Is it scary? Some points to it, but I think anyone can watch that.
Yeah, I could teeter to almost being spooky just because it got me this time when he was literally strangling that woman. That was like, oh shit, I forgot how bad they were.
Yeah,
I thought they were just having them running amok bad, but like now they're like hurting people.
And she gets ejected out of the window from that wheelchair or the thing on the stairs.
What did they call that? The old commercials used to have that for it, but I forget what that was called. But I don't know, man. If I saw someone, that was probably the best. That was one of the best kills I've seen in a movie in a while. I was like, man, she got ejected out her window by like the Stairmaster thing, whatever it's called. But
it was funny. It was just chaos. It was a good movie. I would recommend this to anybody who just wants to look for a classic mid-'80s movie. It is a good. I say kind of more teeters on a Christmas movie than it does horror.
Yeah,
because it's that, or you can watch a Hallmark movie. That's the only two options you have.
Yeah,
that's totally it's totally better than a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that or Home Alone, which basically Home Alone is like he is Gizmo. It's just there was no, you know what I mean? It's kind of like the same
amazed
vibe
too.
To it.
That this movie was made on a budget of $11 million because I think
that's a lot for '84, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know,
but there's so many animatronics.
Yeah, the animatronics
puppets
and
I was watching this and I had two thoughts of I'm surprised nobody has done anything with this property. Right. I think there's been a cartoon, and you said there's something else coming out here soon in the next year. I'm surprised this hasn't been rebooted so many times because we all want a Gizmo.
Yeah.
And then I also thought the Gremlins would be a great mascot for an insurance company. Like what is the Mayhem, whatever that commercial where there's tons of things going on.
Yeah.
Just to have the Gremlins running amok in your commercial. Something that we all kind of know. I'm surprised they haven't been adopted for a commercial yet.
Right.
Yeah. So as popular as they are, it almost seems like they're not that popular.
Because they've tried to put lights on them, but it never ends up well. So like if they tried to film them.
Yeah.
You have to put like those bright
because Gremlins are real.
Yeah. So you understand why this is. That's why they left it alone after number 2. They're like, we're not dealing with this again.
I just think we
should. That's a mogwai upstairs.
Oh, that's Gizmo.
Hey, Gizmo. But anyway, it doesn't really matter because I think that wraps up our time anyway.
Well, no, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So the dad, with all his inventions. I know I mentioned like what was the one you'd want to, what invention would you want? But we had an idea for an invention years ago for a car that I wanted to bring up to all the listeners.
Oh yeah, I was spitballing you some Shark Tank ideas, which actually I thought of another one here since we're talking about it. But what was the name of the car?
The Chariot.
The Chariot. You know how like cars are supposed to be safer and more efficient and everything? I always thought about creating a vehicle where you need 3 drivers. Mm-hmm. So like I'm in the very front and it's very long, and then in the very back it's almost like a big bulldozer where it's open and you need 2 drivers. Mm-hmm. Well, actually the drivers are on the front and I'm in the back.
It's like the horses are in the front.
And I have to control from the back. So I go, driver on the right, are we clear? Driver on the left. And JD and Power Associates gives it the worst rating ever. Mm-hmm. So I thought about just creating it's like the Homer Simpson car.
Yeah.
Remember when he created the car, just creating the worst possible car ever. I don't know why you brought that up, but you were just thinking about it.
I was. Well, I mean, I was thinking you pretty much.
It has nothing to do with Gremlins. But...
No, it does. Because the ideas that this dad came up with are some
bad inventions.
Really bad inventions or ideas that you've been feeding to me since I've known you since first grade.
Yeah.
It's some of the worst ideas
You
I've
know,
ever
you
heard.
mentioned dropping like Gizmo into like foreign territory. I actually literally thought about something where it's called a velocicopter, where like you know it's like
Is that like a velocipaster?
you know yeah yeah
That's a
Phil's
movie.
the kid's
Yeah, I
thing.
know. Yeah.
No, but I was thinking like it's like a velociraptor, but it's got like helicopter.
Yeah.
And then we remote control them into foreign territory.
Yeah, drone.
Yeah, and like the tag of the movie is prehistoric meets present.
I think we could.
Yeah.
There have been worse movies.
They're
so
like the Sci-Fi Channel.
You think you can share that idea on your Instagram page?
we'll get it going. We're gonna get a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter going, and
Yeah,
we'll get
at
it
least
funded.
the creators of Jurassic Park could do something like that. But I bet the U.S. military has a Gizmo or has a velociraptor, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
But that's all I wanted to bring in because I drop in because I think that was you reminded me of the dad a lot.
Hey,
Dino drone,
Listen,
you could
I
also
told him
use
too
that.
my other days, and he said it's the stupidest shit I ever heard. So I was too embarrassed him to tell me about my car because I really thought it was a brilliant idea.
The Chariot's a good idea.
Chariot is a good idea.
It'll come
So-
to market one day. Maybe
So-
an EV version.
Yeah. So Gremlins, out of a score of 3, did all right. Usually it does a lot worse, but it got 2 spookies, and they're not too spooky. So it's a recommended movie.
Yeah,
I would say.
I like the movie. I like the second one too. I like the franchise.
Yeah.
I got. I'm
revisit
surprised
that,
it's never became more than that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also glad. It's like one of those. It forces you to go back, and kids are, oh, I want to see the new one. I want to see the new one. There is no new one. You're just
Yeah.
gonna have to watch the original and the second one.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
and my kids liked it, and I think future generations will
And
too.
you know, we hate doing this, but of course, if you're following our content and you like it, you have to slash that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify. We don't want to be greedy. You don't have to do all 3. Whatever you want to do, just follow us. But also check out Brent Terhune. You can check out his comedy page, of course. But he also does that horror podcast called "They're Coming to Get You," which is very good. And you run that with Gavin.
Yeah, Gavin Eddings. He's another comedian. We've done similar movies. We're doing Krampus and also Trick or Treat. And then we've done The Munsters. We've done Goosebumps, The Haunted Mask, which is in the similar vein of scary for kids and
Nice.
nostalgic for adults.
Is that the Goosebumps? Is that a movie or a show?
It's the show.
The
We
show
did
episode, right?
an episode of the show,
Okay.
and then we've done the first season is all the hits of Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Exorcist, Texas
Yeah.
Chainsaw Massacre, all that.
If you haven't noticed, he does like the classic shit more than we do the garbage ones.
But we also have some, we've done House of a Thousand Corpses, and that's not.
Yeah, well, I like that one too. But I think at some point we can cross paths and we pick out a Halloween one that nobody really watches, like Resurrection or something like that. Go with that. But then, of course, we'll have you back on for the Howling 7. We'll do that. So.
I'll have to watch the Howling 7. I gotta
TV.
watch the other 6.
No, there's no
It's
need.
probably better
No
if
need.
you just
Nah,
watch.
no need.
yeah,
It would just
7.
further confuse you. It's
Okay.
bizarre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Brent, for coming.
Yeah, and this was another episode of Way Too Spooky, and we're back. I know we took a little hiatus there, but we're gonna be back.
Christmas break.
Yeah, we're gonna be back in a little more routine schedule. We'll probably squeeze in one more Christmas one before the year's end. So
Hope to.
that was it. Thanks a lot, Brent. Thank you guys. Adios.
Take care. Bye.